Intimate conversation between two.
I know. I love it.
So nice to have you on campus. This is your first time on our campus?
It's my first time. Now, we obviously have a team of folks who are practically residents here, I would say, but I'm so delighted to be here, and I thank you for the invitation.
And we love that you are a women's college grad yourself.
It makes me really, really proud. I believe in the transformative power of all women's schools. So I know the mission, and I know the impact.
So I'll dive right in. We've got a few questions for you that we've all kind of come up with together. And we've got questions I know from students as well. So I'll run through these. And I think so many of us really want to understand your career journey and background. We heard a lot about your accomplishments, but really, like, how did you get here? And how did you do all of this?
Yeah. So the first thing that I like to say, particularly when I'm talking to young women, is I want you to see my story as an example of what is possible for you. Because as I tell my life story, as I share my journey, I always say when I reflect that it feels like it's been a series of improbabilities, that the likelihood that I would be in this moment, at this time, in this seat, figuratively speaking, was truly unlikely. But it's possible with incredible persistence, hard work, and the ability to just break through barriers. So probably what is most defining about my life story is that I'm an immigrant. I moved to this country when I was 8 years old with my parents. We fled a coup in our home country of Ghana. My parents moved to Houston, Texas, a new home, new country, new language, new people, new community. They came with their 3 young daughters. I'm the oldest sister to Lucy and Alma, my younger 2 sisters. But we came with nothing more than what was in our suitcase. And so literally started from scratch. And I think watching their experience, knowing what they'd given up, they were both accomplished professionals when we left our country. And my parents both became hourly workers because that's how you support your family. In spite of the level of education, my mother was a lawyer when we left Ghana, my dad was a businessman, and so I knew what they'd given up. And the lessons they instilled in us were principally around, 1, seeing boundless possibility in life, knowing that anything was possible if we set our minds to it, even as young Black African girls. Knowing that it was important for us to also orient our lives and the things we did around important things. So we needed to make a difference. They also showed us that we could be excellent and driven, but it was important to always be humble and grateful. And I think the combination of knowing what was possible in my life, but also appreciating that nothing would be given to me, I think was a real driver. And so really, as I look back on all that I've accomplished, I think that life experience, feeling so alone as a child, being in a foreign country, trying so hard to assimilate, working hard to get rid of my accent, using bleaching creams as a child because I so desperately wanted to be white and blonde like all the people around me. I think that journey and that experience, 1, has absolutely built resilience. It redefined my notion of risk. It bolstered my sense of determination. And I just decided at a young age, 1, that I wanted more. I wanted more for my parents because even at my age, I still want to make my parents proud. When good things happen, they are the first people I want to call because I want them to know that it was worth it. I also want to be a good inspiration to my children. I have 2 of them, and I want them to also know, as 2 young Black kids in this country, that things are possible for them. So let me just end by saying, I have done the hardest jobs in my career. I've been given assignments nobody else wanted. I have raised my hand to do things that for most people would be really uncomfortable, like moving to Brazil, moving to a new country in a new job function with a new company where I had to learn 2 new languages. But here's what I believe generally about taking chances. That one, you just acknowledge it's going to be hard, because anything that's worth it is hard. But you also have to believe that there's something really incredible on the other side. And so I'm willing to take a few punches, to cry a few nights if I have conviction that what I'm doing is worth it. I've worked for 5 companies over the last 20 years in multiple industries. I've done multiple jobs. And the last thing that I will say is the common thread as I think about my career journey is that I have chosen and often have had the privilege to work for companies that are mission and values aligned. Because the thing that you will know, particularly you young women that are going out into the workplace, is that you can think about work as a set of daily tasks and activities, or you can think about work as a purpose, as a vocation, as an opportunity to have lasting impact. And so the joy for me in my career, in spite of the hard, is that I have been able to have an imprint in organizations because I've chosen organizations that are also willing to make a difference in the world. So that is my story. Y'all are a friendly audience, by the way.
Yeah, they're a good group. They're a good group. We brought them in.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about your leadership style. We've
Yes.
talked a little bit about obstacles and challenges, and the strengths that you possess and you think others need to possess to deal with obstacles. Your leadership style, and how does it differ to maybe some of your male counterparts?
Yeah.
What do you bring to each role that's specifically you or specifically a women-focused approach?
Yeah. So if I can be stereotyped for a minute, I do think that women in general are willing to bring more facets of who they are into the workplace, a willingness to be vulnerable and open, authentic. And I will say that my leadership style and philosophy has been a journey that has been informed by all the jobs that I've done, the experiences that I've had. But inherently, I'm a person that genuinely cares about people. And so perhaps the risk I've taken, I say it's risk because it wasn't a style that has always been embraced in corporate America, but it's a style that is most comfortable for me. So I have chosen to cultivate a brand of leadership that is anchored in my humanity. And what that means is that I choose to be kind, to be compassionate, and as I mentioned, to even be vulnerable. It is okay to say you don't know, because the other thing that I have learned as a leader is that the best leaders know how to ask the most poignant questions and know how to assemble the right team of experts, as I have over here, who know how to answer those questions. So it is not about bravado, it is not about having all the answers, but it is just being curious and assembling a team of people that you trust and that you empower. I love to tell the story of Ed Reed. And we love Ed Reed. He's sitting right there, and he's our leader on this campus. Ed Reed has a very similar leadership style to mine. He genuinely cares about people and wants to enable people. He thinks about people more than what they do on our campuses, but who they are as people. And he's really committed to helping them enhance their own lives. Ed Reed has been in this organization for a long time. But I saw Ed Reed when I started because I want like 1,000 Ed Reeds in my organization. And he is living our values in the way that I've tried to cultivate them. And so what I hope that I'm doing by exhibiting this kind of leadership style, and let me also say, particularly as women, when you choose to be vulnerable and kind and humble, people think you're weak. And so the other thing that I've tried hard to do is to juxtapose the kinder part of my leadership with being very clear and demanding about what I expect as a leader. And so that means that I set a high bar, and there are some things that are non-negotiable for me, and values is one of them. And people around me know that I have had the smartest people, technically really good people in roles, but they've not been mission aligned, and they're no longer with our organization. And that's the kind of conviction you have to have as a leader. And I think women, honestly, because again, they tend to be more mission driven and they tend to lead more authentically, actually have the ability to shape organizations in a way that not only delivers value for shareholder, but thinks about value creation in the context of team members, our employees, although I call them team members, I call them my colleagues, clients, obviously, and community. And so that for me is true impact. And I also think those things in totality drive financial performance, which is what people at the top think about, care about. So the other thing that I want to say is that you can do all the other things, but you got to deliver first. And when you have credibility in delivering bottom line results, you have a lot more latitude to create the organizations in your image.
You're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also love Ed Reed here on campus, so.
I love Ed Reed. Love Ed Reed.
One of the things that this is a common topic on our campus. We're about to launch our strategic plan. This is a big focus at Wesleyan and in Macon is, and you have so much experience in this, so we are so keen to hear from you. Describe what equity and women's empowerment mean to you, and how do you take steps to support and implement equity in your businesses, in your life, in your relationships, in your volunteer work, and what advice can you give to us?
It's such a loaded question.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard question to answer because we've been at this equity game for a very, very long time. As was mentioned in my introduction, I was also Global Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at Sodexo before I left. It was the hardest and the worst job I've ever had. One, because I think some corporations, even the best intentioned ones, sometimes see this as a check the box. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a check the box. And what I believe we have to do in the D&I construct, because ultimately we also cannot forget DEI is a construct that was conceived to ensure representation of women and people of color. It has now been weaponized, and so it is much harder to do the work and to do it with impact without feeling risk. And so what I say to my organization is that, one, we need to be really clear about our values. And most good organizations understand that equity, inclusion, diversity are not only good things to do, but they're good for business. And so the business case for me has been made over and over and over again. And so really, it is about how we do the work sustainably. Because even as you start to make progress, you can never relent in this work. And so I treat DE&I as a business imperative, and I treat it the same way that we treat anything that is important on the strategic roadmap, which means that you actually create a strategy, you establish goals, timelines, targets, you drive accountability. And so our goal in our organization, if you look at our strategic roadmap, we've actually just refined it, and DEI and our mission, vision, values sit at the top of the roadmap. And it's a signal to everybody. It's in our goals. It's a signal to everybody. It's not just my job as a CEO. It's not just the job of our Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. It is everybody's job to embed deeply DEI in the organization and to hold yourselves accountable to ensure you sustain the numbers. Megan, can I also just say one thing about what I have discovered and the reason why this work is so important, particularly for women and for people of color? One, I think that the fact that women have not achieved their full potential in America and around the world is probably one of the largest market failures in modern business history. Because if you think about, right, for those of you who are economists, if you think about supply demand and that equilibrium, there's a mismatch in that there's demand that cannot be appropriately met with supply because women are not active participants in the marketplace. And so there is a broken system that has significant economic impact, financial, and everybody should care about that. And at the heart of it, you all, is discrimination. It's because we have seen the studies. There's proof. Women are willing to work just as hard as men. Their education level attainment is actually now exceeding that of men. They are talented, they are smart, they are balancing career and family. And the truth is, all of those things have not created an even playing field. So it is inherently about discrimination, which is why DEI is so important. It is the only way that you achieve equity is for us to get to the heart of discrimination, the heart of the barriers in place for women, and you need white men to lead the charge because they own the power structure. So these programs hold us all accountable, but it is the only way that we will achieve equity. And the sad thing is none of us in this room will be around to see it when it happens, even with all the effort. So sorry to leave you with that statistic, but it just gets back to the heart of your question. We have to be relentless in our pursuit of equity, and we have to do it intelligently. You treat it like you treat any business problem. Sorry, I know went on, but I'm particularly passionate about that.
And our Chief Diversity Officer, Katina, who's sitting right there, always says that DEI needs to be in our DNA.
It has to
and
be.
Throughout our institution, and a thread that ties all of our departments together. So I saw her nodding feverishly at everything you were saying.
I salute you. I know it is very hard work. I salute you. Yeah.
So I wanted all of our students, raise your hand. Students who are here. We have a lot of students who've showed up today. Thank you for that. And so I wanted to ask this question for them. Tips for success. What are some of the key qualities or skills that have helped you succeed in your career? What are you looking for? And what advice would you give to them as a CEO, as somebody who does hiring, some of those skills, those assets?
Yeah. So if I think back over the course of my career, persistence for sure is I put that at the top of the list. You just have to push through. And what I worry about, because I have children, I do worry about with this generation, there's frustration when things don't go your way. And there's a desire for instant gratification. And I think you have to appreciate that in the course of your career, there will be jobs you do not like. There will be jobs you don't want to do. There will be jobs that feel beneath you. You have to do those jobs and you have to stick with them because no career is linear, but it's just sort of persisting through the setbacks, the derailments. That's actually what takes you to the next level. So you will feel inclined at many points in your career to give up. Do not. That's what I say to you. Do not. And here's what I also can promise you, somebody who's got the perspective, the benefit of hindsight, is that when you push through and you ultimately achieve success, there's nothing sweeter because you have worked so hard and given up so much to get there. And there is joy in that. There is joy in persisting and persevering. So persistence is one of them. The other one that I talked about is authenticity. Do not try to be somebody else. Do not try to be like your male colleague. But to lead authentically, you have to know yourself. And that is also a lifelong journey. But if you invest in the who am I, what do I value, what will I tolerate, if you can answer those questions, it makes it really easy for you to decide where you want to be, what spaces you choose to occupy, and how you want to use your leverage. So really invest in knowing your true self and then project that, because on the hardest days, when you have to make the hardest decisions, it is actually your authenticity that gives you the courage and the conviction to do what's hard. So authenticity is one. Learning agility. Oh, this is a good one, learning agility. So when I was a Sodexo for 10 years, I had 8 jobs. I called them mini assignments. And the mini assignments were often disconnected. So the next job was often disconnected from the previous job, which means that all I could take to the next job was curiosity, a willingness to just dig in, figure it out, problem solve, go to the source, like just get really creative in how you solve problems. But what I discovered is that, one, even if you don't have the technical experience to do that next job, the confidence that you can do it and the willingness to just roll up your sleeves and figure it out is priceless in your roles. So see your jobs as mini assignments, remain learning agile, and again, you might, in the course of your career, you might take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but when you think of the arc of your career, there will be absolute movement. Okay, two other ones that I'm thinking about. So one is allyship. I am so tired of women being pitted against each other. And we as women have to learn how to fight with each other, not against each other. We can be our biggest advocates. I do think that like the next revolution in business comes when women actually stand up for each other. So when you make it, you bring other people with you. I cannot say enough about allyship. And then the last, because I told a group of women this yesterday, partnership. Think about the person you choose to spend your life with and choose well, because it also can be really defining. Is my mic out? Is it out? Oh, there it is. It can be really defining. I have a husband who has freely taken pride in my accomplishments, has taken inspiration from me, has subordinated his best interest for the good of our family. You need to find that kind of partner because it will define what is possible in your life. So I think, yeah, those things are all the secrets, have been, I guess, the secrets, or not such secrets, but they have defined my own career.
But good reminders.
Yes.
Mentorship and mentors is something, of course, we believe in here at Wesleyan. We're building a quad mentorship model here with our CEO students. I want to know, can you talk about a mentor or a role model who has had a significant influence on your life and your career? How did their guidance shape your journey and your professional growth?
Yeah, we all need mentors. It's the only way doors get opened. And I would actually say there's a difference between mentors and sponsors. When you get into organizations, sponsors are people who are well situated in organizations and have the ability to open doors for you. Mentors are equally as valuable. They may not be strategically positioned to open doors, but they are people who can be a sounding board, can help you navigate complex situations. But so we need a mix of both, that's what I'd say. And truly, every job that I've done has been because a mentor saw something in me and put me in a role before I thought I was ready. And the most poignant example of that was when I was in my early 30s. I just had my first child and I knew I wanted more children. And my boss at the time, the CEO of the company, wanted to promote me to my first P&L job, general management role. And I remember saying to him, oh, I don't want that job because I want to be a mom, and that just seems too far out of reach. And I remember John Chaney sitting me down, and he was, by that time, he'd raised his kids, close to retirement, and he thought that my statement was incredulous. And he said, you can be a mom. And listen, y'all, I went to Wellesley College, and I was still saying that about myself. So it is like, the thought is pervasive, and when you're in it, especially when you've got a newborn, you're juggling childcare, it's like, how do you do this? But he looked at me and he said, you can be a mom, and you can be, you can be a mom and you can have a career, and I will help you. Now think about how pivotal that was. That was a fork in a road. And if I had been working for somebody else who cared less, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. So mentors can be those people that can send you in the right direction. So I would say invest in mentorship, be strategic about who you ask to mentor you, and invest in that relationship in being brilliant, because mentors also want to surround themselves with people who have incredible potential and are doing great things.
I'm gonna try this one. Let's see here.
Yeah, it just kept going in and out.
Okay, this is another question from some of our students, and then we'll open up the floor in a minute to
I would love that.
Have them ask questions. But what is one piece of advice you would give to young professionals starting their career in today's environment? We've talked about persistence and agility. Anything you want to add for some of our grads who are about to launch into the workforce, ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably just harken back to some of the comments that I made, and it's the, I don't know if this generation we've served you well in terms of managing your expectation. and I do think just expectation management about what you're going to encounter is so critical. nobody's going to walk out of college to become a CEO or a senior leader. I think just embrace the process of learning. And I can't say this enough, that there is value in suffering. There's value, even self-inflicted suffering. And so, yes, I want you all to enjoy life, but progress and achievement is a function of suffering through the hard. And I just am going to ask you all to really lean into that, because I do think that that is what is going to be the most, it's the thing that shapes your trajectory. So in addition to everything that I've said, I want you to be okay with hardship and suffering and leaning into it in key moments, because getting through it is empowering.
I might be putting you on the spot with this one, so if you need a moment. But I always love asking people this. What's your favorite quote and why?
Oh, you're not putting me on the spot. I love that question.
Okay, way to go. Here we go.
I do. I love a lot of quotes, but the one that has resonated for me for a very long time, it's a Mark Twain quote, and it is, what is the quote? It's, I'm paraphrasing, but there are two most important days in your life. The day you are born and the day you find out why. Yeah. I love that so much, because again, for those of us that choose to live mission-driven, purpose-driven lives, the ability to sort of understand your why, it provides clarity. It just provides clarity. And so my why has always been my rallying cry. It's the thing that centers me. It's the thing that gets me through hard days and long nights, because it's about more than, again, the day-to-day tasks. And so find your why, because it creates the greatest level of satisfaction. It also leads to the most enduring work that has an impact not just in organizations, but in society. And that's how I see my job, you all. I mean, I'm running a company, but my team knows we talk about how do we inspire progress as an organization? How do we inspire progress? And that, I hope that as you think about your why, it's about more than the money you'll make or the title that you'll have. It's about leaving an impact, an imprint on society.
That's perfect. I mean, we always talk here about just trying to leave things better than you found them each day.
That's right.
And if you continue to do that, the impact will be great. I know so many of the students out there say, okay, President Blight, it's our turn. We got some questions. So I want to turn it over to anybody, any of our students or our audience members who might have, I think so we have some time here for questions for Mia.
Nothing is off limits. I will answer any question. Yeah. And tell me your name and where you're from.
I'm Tia Logan. I'm from Thompson, Georgia.
Nice to meet you.
What types of opportunities do you think are important for students to take advantage of?
Opportunities to take advantage of, was that your question? As students or post your college career? Post. Here's what I would love for you all to do, both as people going into the work world, and again, people who I hope will be just good citizens of the world. Obviously, get a good job, one that allows you to learn and grow, that you see as a good stepping stone to something else. So be really intentional about internships, about building your network, and leverage that. Leverage that as you're going out into the workplace. But I would love to see you all also volunteer. Find organizations, causes that you're passionate about, and get on their boards. Nonprofit boards are really easy. People love, folks running nonprofit organizations are always looking for young, hungry talent that are unafraid of solving problems. And so think about the community component of how you might contribute in the world, and then have fun. This is, because life gets complicated, you will have kids, you will deal with aging parents, work gets really hard, but in this moment, you can do all the stuff and also just enjoy life. Have fun.
That takes a lot of courage to be the first one.
Yes.
The first question. Oh, okay, here we go.
My name is Ariana. My question for you is, how have you And what steps can you take to create a more inclusive and equitable business environment?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. So as women of color, it's an inevitability. You will encounter discrimination in all forms. And it is incredibly diminishing. It can eat at your soul. And I think the first thing that you recognize, it's not about you. It's a bias that the other person has. So you gotta know yourself, and then you're gonna work really hard, because that is the best revenge. Success is the best revenge. Your work ethic and integrity is the thing you can control. So again, when I talk about I did the hard jobs, I didn't complain, I kept my head down, and I let my work speak for itself, because people cannot argue business results. Mm-hmm. So you just stay focused on doing the hard work, continuing to shine, demonstrating great integrity, and I do promise over time, it's hard not to see that. Mm-hmm. So, and then just be intentional about the organizations that you join. I do know young people care about social impact, and they care about DEI, ESG. So do your homework and say yes to companies that will create the kind of environment where you will thrive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great answer.
Okay, so my question for you this evening is, how do you empower yourself, and how do you empower the women around you, especially in environments where it's easy to feel unempowered?
How do I empower myself? So I do a lot of self-help. I do a lot of self-help books. I also surround myself with people that are my biggest champions and advocates. I am somebody who, from day one, has always appreciated just affirmation. I like to know that I'm doing the right thing for people and companies, and so I often just need some champions around me who can say, in spite of all the noise, stay true to who you are, especially when you're in a leadership role and everything you do is being scrutinized. People want to make up stories about you just because. And so I try really hard to stay grounded. My family's amazing. My kids keep me super grounded. But then it is also my responsibility as a leader to create an environment for women. I have an executive team of 9 people, 5 of us are women, and I am really intentional about particularly putting women in big roles. Like Tiara is here with us. We just hired her. She's a president at my company, running an $800 million business. I love to make my CFOs women. Let's not do the cliche thing and always put women in DEI, HR roles. Women have big brains, and so you want them leading business. And so I'm trying to set that tone by hiring the right women who also empower other women. Because do you know what? Can I say, by the way, I love your earrings. Can I also say this? The power is in women seeing other women in senior level roles. Because when you see it, you tend to believe you can be it. So I do think representation at the top of organizations is critical, and it makes a difference.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Alexandra. I'm from Venezuela. I'm just like you.
Yes.
So my question is basically, you said that your mom was a lawyer, my mom was a lawyer too, so like, everything had. But my question is basically, do you think that the lack of role models is what's holding all of us sometimes? As you were saying, there's no representation for like, someone wants to be the U.S. president because there was no woman who was president before. So do you think the lack of role model, myself, I saw my mom becoming a lawyer, getting a master's degree, PhD, all that. Do you think that's what's holding us back? What is, maybe making it hard for us to be so diverse? What on the future for us, what's like the ideal?
I think it's such an astute question, and I do think it's really scary to be the first. One of the hallmarks of my career, and it's not one I'm particularly proud of, and it's one that I want to change, is that I've been the first woman or woman of color in every role I've occupied over the last 20-something years. And that is just not a distinction that I hold in high regard. I think it's a signal of just how the dearth of representation and how much work is still ahead of us in spite of the fact that we've been at it for so long. And I can't tell you, even as recently as when I was in the process for this job that I'm in today, you know, I have the degrees, I've done all the big jobs, I sat on corporate boards, I spoke multiple languages, I lived abroad, and I was still told, you need more experience. and so really, I think we will start to progress when, one, there are just more women in seats. Because it is true, you will see it and you will say it's possible, but women in big seats also have a responsibility to open doors. And I do think, I mean, I'm looking at the women in the room, I do think that's happening with more frequency and more intentionality. And so it's better today than it was even 5 years ago. I believe that. But let us be clear, there are forces also trying to bring us back, and that is why we have to be relentless. We take nothing for granted. Just because we are making progress doesn't mean we will sustain that progress unless we continue with intensity all the things we're doing to break barriers. You're going to make me cry. Yeah. Gracias por tu pregunta. Y mucho gusto.
Because I have seen so many people, like, in the US particularly, who are not taking advantage of the opportunities that they do have.
Yeah.
You know, I came here, paying for my own school and all that.
I know.
And there is so many people who are, I don't know, I think it's just that they don't see someone doing what they want to do. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of sad to see that they're not actually doing what they should be doing, you know.
I want you to take my number when we finish today, okay? And you and I will have more conversations. You need not to feel alone. And I know it is very lonely. But you are capable. You have everything ahead of you. You just need somebody who can tell you every day that it is possible. And I'm so grateful for your mom. Hang on to your mom, okay?
Ma'am?
I'm not a student, but thank you for allowing me to see,
Yeah.
to see President-elect. My name is Laura Patrick. I represent the city of Warner Robins as its mayor. I'm the first female mayor, first African-American mayor, first woman. And I say that only because of the young lady who just spoke, to show her that this is possible and we can do this as long as we believe in ourselves. But this has been phenomenal. If you didn't see me taking notes, it's because I need to hear these things on a consistent basis. But you mentioned not having an even playing field and discrimination being part of that reason. So I had an experience, and I'm not sure if I shared this with President White, and I won't share it now because it's kind of a longer explanation, but I had a professional experience last year, and it brought me to tears. It really brought me to tears, and I felt so helpless. I didn't know a woman to call to say, hey, this is what happened to me. Have you ever dealt with this? And how can I overcome it? So I felt so small. So not having an even playing field. I remember sitting down with a friend of mine who's a veterinarian and he's a male, and I told him, I said, how will I ever be able to accomplish all the things that people say I have the potential to accomplish when I'm already set behind the men? Because the men have the privilege of sitting down with another male leader, be it at an organization, an institution, or the federal government. They can sit down with them and have a conversation over coffee, over dinner, you know, just go out for coffee or whatever it is. But me and my role, even if I am in a higher role than these other people that get the one-on-one time with another powerful leader who's a male, I can't do the same thing. And the reason I can't do the same thing, as I've been told, is because if people see me with you, they're going to assume that we are dating or that we are together. And I felt so small at that moment.
Yeah.
And listening to your story and all the things that you've done, the same thing with President Biden and her, we had many conversations. How do you overcome that feeling when at the end of the day they only see me as a pretty face and a female,
Yeah.
but I am so much more. And how do you not allow that to minimize you on the inside? How do you pick yourself back up? Because I don't know the answer.
Yeah. I wish I could give you an answer, but here's the thing that I can validate. The work world has shifted, and certainly we've become more litigious. And I do think genuinely, I hear this all the time, men are afraid to be alone with women. That is real. And that only hurts us, right? And so, but you can have relationships with men in the workplace. You know, it doesn't have to be a dinner. And now certainly a lot of us are virtual, so Zoom calls are quite innocent, but I've heard that so much. And somebody said the same to me, you know, not able to have dinner, but you know, let's meet in the office. I do also find that most men today are really willing to mentor women. And you've just got to find the right one who sees you, sees your potential, is willing to make the investment. But I also say one of the things that we can do as women is to create our own circles. And so, because you've made it, and I would imagine that you must also know pretty accomplished women. And there's power in just being together, sharing stories, uplifting each other. So increasingly, because there are more women in positions of power, we have become our own mentors. And so I'd say that for me feels quite accessible, and you just have to find them. But I think with men, you find another way, and not everything has to be a dinner after work. There are other ways to do it in safe environments. But don't give up. I do know how diminishing it can feel. But as I look at you, you're a woman who's also made her own way. And so lean on that, and build your own circle and empower yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello.
My name is Melissa Sanders. I'm a grad student here at Wesleyan College. Thank you for being here. I'm honestly in a very challenging position right now because I'm getting ready to graduate like within the next few months, and I'm battling looking for work that will pay bills and stuff versus choosing opportunities that will help me to develop, that will help me to choose businesses that can focus on values and missions that align with what I want and what I value. So what tips would you give me or anybody else who is going through the same thing? Because there's just so much in the world that just like put fear into us of like, you gotta run to the job that's paying the most. What can you say to anyone today?
Good question.
Yeah. Thank you, and congratulations on your upcoming graduation. That's very exciting. But yes, there's a whole big world waiting for you, and it's not as scary as you think, because you also tackle this in bite-sized chunks. I'd say resist the urge to think about the entirety of your career. It's just about this first decision. And it's okay if you get it wrong. I'd say do your homework, leverage your network, and I think there are great companies that will be mission aligned. I believe that. More and more companies are being forced to be conscious in the way they think about capital. And so there are many, you will find many. Look at companies with female CEOs. There are not that many of them, but look for companies with female CEOs as a way of sort of filtering your list. Look for companies on the Fortune Best Companies to Work For list. Look for companies that are on the DEI list, particularly for women. So you can be really sort of academic in the exercise, and then you're gonna go with your gut, and that's the thing. If you get it wrong, that's okay. Because what did I say? Jobs are assignments. You don't have to choose a job thinking that you're gonna be there for 5 years. But think about the quality of the work that you're going to do and the ways in which it serves as a springboard to the next thing. So bite-sized chunks, Do your homework, go with your gut, and if it's a mistake, it's not irreversible. Okay? You'll be fine. You're going to do great.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing today. I think for pouring into people emotionally,
Thank
being
you.
emotional self, and giving tools for professional tools.
Thank
My name
you.
is Dr. Monique Davis-Smith, and I'm a guest here. It's a treat.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you. The question or comment that I had is, could you speak to how perfectionism can challenge or stall or paralyze, and how to respond to failure?
Yes.
All the women in the room are like,
Oh, I love that question so much. Yes, women tend to be perfectionists, and we let it get in the way of just good enough. And it's why we want to check every box before we apply for that job. And it's a statistic, like men will raise their hand if they check 2 of the boxes. We want to check all 10. And so yes. So yes, I mean, there is, oh shoot, I just forgot the question. Oh, hold on.
Perfectionism.
Yes, we're talking about perfectionism. That does happen to me from time to time. So I think as a parent, as a mom, I'm certainly trying to raise my daughter to shed herself of the pressure of being perfect. And it's the way we raise her, the way we reward and reinforce her, to remind her that she's good enough, even if she is not perfect. I also think that, again, it's the mindset and ability to see failure as a gift, really. And I know the world doesn't see it that way, but I think personal experience tells us all that failure can truly be a gift. And it's a moment to reset, to learn, to go deep within yourself, to be introspective. And I suppose some of us need tools to be able to do that, but I've started to really also, I don't like the word, I suppose. I mean, because there's so much connotation in the word, the notion of failure. I see it as growth. Without failure, there is no progress. And so I hope as young women sitting in classrooms, when I was at Wellesley, they taught us that. And they empowered us to take risks, to do things before we thought we were ready, and to be okay with mistakes. So I guess it's a mindset, and some of us have to learn it, but believe me when I say the world might tell you you failed, but it's simply a pivot. You're making a pivot. So think about it that way. Yeah. Are we done?
Susanna, do you have one more? You have, please. Susanna Maddox. Yeah.
I would just like to say first to Melissa. So my terrible job when I was living in Atlanta, working for an NFL player, I learned pretty quickly that if you don't love the NFL, you shouldn't be managing 65 products. It's for another time. But that terrible situation when I made a B- on a test that my boss gave me and said, well, you can take it again. I'm not taking it again. I quit, but during that time was when I started to realize that I have to find work that feels important, feels like I'm doing, it's important and valuable for me, but also that I'm giving back something larger. And you spoke to this. It's okay to be in a terrible job while you figure it out, right? So it's all part of it, and you can't find that until you do it.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm Susanna Maddox. I'm the publisher and editor of Making Magazine, and I want to say to you, thank you for choosing Wesleyan, saying yes to Wesleyan, and also for saying yes to Macon.
Yeah.
Because when you choose Wesleyan,
You just Macon.
And you students have empowered me today, and I'm so thankful for your vulnerability and asking such hard questions.
Yeah.
Asking the hard questions is how we get there.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm going to ask you, first of all, if you would share. You've shared so beautifully, and I really appreciate it. It speaks into me. And,
Thank you.
if you could share a missed opportunity for yourself, and then what would be a missed opportunity, right? Like you don't need to tell us about your regrets. I mean, you can if you want.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for yourself, and then, if you will, for our culture, for our society. Could be global, could be your culture, could be our country.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big one to end on.
That's a really big question, and I'm thinking. So I actually might reframe the question, because I am somebody who really always has many opportunities. I get asked to do a lot of things, and I actually think there's power in learning how to say no. I remember, I'm gonna be really open and vulnerable with you all. I am a yes person. I'm a people pleaser. And because I genuinely care about the world around me, I tend to over-index in saying yes. And in 2022, I found myself sitting on 12 boards.
Oof.
And also being a leader in 12 organizations on top of my job. And I actually had a breakdown in early 22. It was jarring for me, because I'm somebody who's always pushed through. I do the hard things. I say yes, and I figure it out, even if it kills me. And it almost did. 22 was a big reset year for me. And I called it my unwind year. I was not well, physically and emotionally. I was not well. I ended up taking a leave of absence from work. And that might have felt like a failure to some people, but it was my self-reckoning that if I didn't do this for myself, I was going to die. And really, it is, we talk about mental health, and that's gonna be my next thing. When I feel brave enough to start talking about 22, I am going to uplift the importance of being well and taking care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I do think that all of us feel pressure as young women, as adult women, and I think I am now okay missing out on opportunity, because I've learned to do two things. One is to appreciate that it's a no for now, and it could come up again, but my no becomes somebody else's yes. Mm-hmm. It creates an opportunity for somebody else. But I hit rock bottom, and it terrified me, because all my life I could just do it, and then I couldn't. And that was a really powerful lesson. So I just want to say, be kind to yourselves, be gracious to yourselves. It is okay to say, I need a timeout, I need to opt out, I can't do it now. There's power in no. So gosh, if I leave you with anything, it's maybe forget about missed opportunity and just take care of yourselves.
Mia, I think that is such a beautiful way to end this, because I think sometimes when young people see people like you, and who have accomplished so much both academically and in business, they just think you've just done it all. You persevere always. So to understand the human side, and that there has been struggle with that, where you've had to step away and take care personally of yourself, is so important for all of us to consider and know as we go through the next journey and seasons of our lives. So thank you for leaving us with that. And thank you so much for being here and choosing Wesleyan and choosing Macon. Yes. And thank you to the entire CW team. We appreciate your partnership on our campus and your support of us. And thank you so much for our community for attending this incredible talk. And to Gail, who's watching from home, thank you for your generosity in supporting this very important lecture series. My friend, we so appreciate you. Thank you all.
Thank you.